very much. Good morning, good afternoon, good evening to you all. I'm very grateful for this opportunity to present the experience of Uganda, but maybe the experience of Africa, because this is about Asia Pacific. I'll very quickly give a background on Uganda, just so that we know where we are. Uganda has a population of about 43 million people. We're a young population. 66% of our population is below the age of 32. We have 65 ethnic groups. We're very culturally diverse. We have 45 indigenous languages. Culturally, we are organized according to traditional kingdoms and chiefdoms. Uganda also has legislation on the promotion and preservation of culture, but we do not have an ICH policy, and that's something we're working on. We have 6 elements of intangible cultural heritage that have been inscribed under the 2003 convention, and we have 3 World Heritage Sites. So how did we come to be involved in developing of curriculum? Over the 14 years that we've been in existence, we realized there's very limited expertise on cultural heritage in Uganda, and we approached UNESCO for support. So we are currently implementing a 3-year program. It's to raise awareness in 4 universities, to design a degree course, fully fledged degree course on ICH and sustainable development, to build capacity and produce training materials, but also to train a cadre of academic staff, because we don't have graduates who are homegrown on heritage studies. To implement this program, we had a diverse representation on a steering committee, and that is from government and the 4 universities, as well as civil society. How did we ensure that the viability and transmission of living heritage was part of our curriculum? We did 5 things. 1, we emphasized the link between ICH and sustainable development. 2, we incorporated cultural entrepreneurship and cultural education in the curriculum. We included traditional practitioners, we call them bearers, as resource persons in the delivery. So they're part of the delivery of that course. In selection of the universities, we made sure that each of the universities had outreach programs so that the students and lecturers would have an opportunity to see ICH in action, which is visiting living heritage sites, whether it's traditional practices, medicine, or dispute resolution, amongst others. We highlighted the link between ICH and employment, which you will see in countries. We have many challenges, but I am only highlighting 4. 1 is about perceptions. We have negative perceptions about the importance and relevance of cultural heritage. And this is derived from 1, a drive for economic development, where social development is given lesser value and priority. In most of our universities, the arts and the humanities are given lesser priority than the sciences. And actually currently the state government of Uganda is supporting supporting financial and political support to universities that are promoting the sciences. And so the arts are not seen as very appealing. The very concept of ICH is not something that people are accustomed to, because they think about cultural heritage in totality, not ICH and tangible heritage on the other side. And we've got a legacy of religions and our education system that doesn't take culture into account. At most, culture is seen as a hindrance to development, or as primitive or irrelevant. So that is our main challenge in terms of perceptions. But then we also have the limited professionalism. When we're developing this course, to have people who have experience in heritage studies to be able to come up with a course. So we had to look for expertise from different locations. Uganda has a high level of poverty and unemployment. And this means that when students and parents pay for tuition fees at university, their priority is to make sure that their graduates come out and they are employed. It is not just for knowledge generation. And therefore, once they're employed, the expectation is they come out of poverty. So that is very key in our universities. People don't go just for knowledge. They go for an opportunity to get employed immediately, if possible. Then we have low investment in the culture sector by government. So there's a very small percentage, 0.03 of our national budget that goes to heritage infrastructure and job opportunities. So you have graduates, but where are they going? So how have we attempted to address these challenges? One, we've carefully selected the participating universities to make sure that the arts and culture are given the importance that they deserve. And they already have some courses in in those subjects. We've adopted a participatory approach across several universities, and we've been drawing on the expertise and professionalism of their lecturers. We've incorporated the element of sustainable development. Initially, we were only going to look at ICH, but now we've made sure it's ICH and sustainable development. So cultural tourism, entrepreneurship, conservation, and other elements are part of the course. We outlined the potential career opportunities and placing emphasis on self-employment. So not waiting to find a ready-made job opportunity, but to create one as a graduate. In the long term, we are trying to lobby government to increase the budget to the culture sector as civil society, CCFU and others, and also invest in the promotion of cultural tourism so that there is a place for our graduates. Some of the factors that we considered in designing the course, which is called Cultural Heritage and Development, it's a bachelor's degree course. One is adherence to national standards for curriculum development. And what we did is to make sure that on the steering committee that I mentioned, we had someone from this center to advise the drafting team on what needs to be put into the curriculum. We made sure the title and the content are relevant, hence the sustainable development attached to heritage, cultural heritage. We used diverse examples of ICH from Uganda, but we also borrowed quite a bit from the UNESCO capacity building online resources. We developed an accompanying tailor-made resource book. It's very big, and I'm not sure whether you can see it, but it's here. It's a big book, and it's supposed to be used by the lecturers and the teachers as reference material. We trained the teachers and the lecturers who are going to deliver this course using the curriculum material, and we took them for field excursions to understand ICH and its relevance. And then we had the draft curriculum reviewed by colleagues in South Africa and Zimbabwe to make sure that we do not leave out any information and we ensure that we are on the right course. To get buy-in from the young students who I've told you have a fairly negative attitude towards culture, we had public lectures, a series of public lectures in all the universities to make sure that the young people have an opportunity to ask questions and to understand what ICH is. Sources to be used, because we've not delivered on this due to COVID, only 2 of the curriculum applications have been approved by government. So there are 2 that are yet to be approved. And hopefully in 2021, we will deliver on this course. But the sources that we're looking at are this book that we developed, the elements that have been inscribed, cultural enterprises in Uganda, cultural centers, we have museums, cultural institutions who are custodians, publications, and online materials from UNESCO. So how are we preparing our teachers, supporting them to prepare the materials they need to deliver on this course? One, the teachers have been and lecturers have been encouraged to study what is in the existing courses, which have elements of ICH. So for instance, sociology, anthropology, history, literature, archaeology, all have elements of ICH, but they don't necessarily frame them and conceptualize ICH the way UNESCO does. So understanding that to avoid duplication, but also to explore complementarity was an important part of what the lecturers and teachers needed to do. They needed to review literature, of course, and to a large extent be involved in the design, whether it's the review or deciding on what material goes in. That was an important aspect of their ability to develop materials, because they understood the philosophy, but also the tools that were to be used and the content. In the public lectures that we had, we ensured that the lecturers and the teachers were there to deliver. So they were also able to engage with the young people, find out what the gaps are, and also be able to enrich their own understanding of the subject matter. Visits to sites and communities of ICH were also organized, which made them able to think about the different domains, see them in action, see the interlinkage between different domains, and therefore be able to come up with materials that are relevant to our local context. So the picture you see there are some of the lecturers who we had who went to a fishing site, and they were looking at boat making as one of our aspects of intangible cultural heritage. Inter-university collaboration at national and regional level will be very important for the teachers to be able to develop materials, but also to be stimulated to think of different methodology and to think of different techniques to deliver on ICH. How can the networks and groups and non-academic institutions support curriculum? One, many of these institutions have examples of viable ICH safeguarding experiences, and that is what the university will need to back up the theoretical dimension of studying and the outreach program. Delivery of lectures, as you can see there, we have a diversity of stakeholders who are delivering their appreciation of the practical value of ICH safeguarding. Reviewing curriculum, because as non-academic staff, you can highlight what in practice makes sense and what is realistic. Supporting regional and international internship, not only for the students, but also for the lecturers to go out and be able to gain exposure and share what they have. And for institutions that are non-academic, they also have repositories of information. They've done research, they've documented aspects of ICH, they have probably training materials. Those can be used by the universities that are delivering. Finally, the question was about cooperation amongst institutions of higher learning. And we have 5 points here. One, if we had a network of lecturers who are delivering on the ICH course, that would be very resourceful, because not all the universities are at the same level. Some are more advanced in their conceptualization and practice, while others are not. So they benefit from this sharing space. Organizing exchange support and exchange visits programs to allow visiting lecturers to exchange experience and gain exposure is one way through which the universities can benefit from each other. Peer review of curricula and the materials that are produced. So you'd have a test on what is relevant and what's not. And then pooling resources to create a repository where any university looking for particular training material or information could easily access that information. And organizing symposia is useful, because then we can learn from each other and know what is topical. Because as you may have heard from my presentation, what is key in this particular development of curriculum is not only knowledge generation and the learner's interest in transmission of ICH, but there are political and financial issues to take into account. There's a contextual relevance and making sure that it is in tandem with what people think is valuable, making sure the course appeals to the need to address contemporary development concerns. And of course, having a multi-stakeholder involvement so that it's not seen as just a university idea, but it's something that is of value to many stakeholders. Thank you very much for listening to me.